Hello, everyone. This is Jeff Hastings. In this session, we're going to cover the peer learning application, which is one of the additional apps available on the Performance Bridge platform. As we've talked about in the past, the platform comes with quality and productivity, which are the two standard analytics applications. The database is the same. Quality is the data visualization, dashboarding type of application, and productivity is the more of a report-based view, so a spreadsheet, words, numbers, etc. But those come standard with the system on the platform, and all of the other applications are selected by the customer based on what problem they're trying to solve. In the case of peer learning, this is an application that is similar to a peer review type of process as far as a radiologist peer review, where one radiologist is doing an overread from a quality control type of standpoint of another radiologist's report. There are many different applications out there in the market from different vendors. ViewPAX does have a peer review application. So if this is a scenario where Performance Bridge is being discussed in the context of an overall ViewPAX solution, the expectation would be that initially you would use the View peer review application, and if for some reason it did not meet the customer's needs, then you could bring in peer learning as another option. And there are some differences between peer learning versus peer review, and so I'll touch on those here in a minute. But peer learning is something, this application specifically was developed at Johns Hopkins, and we have relicensed it from them. So peer learning can also be used as an example. Even if you're not demonstrating the application, you can use it as an example of an app that was created by a customer and then relicensed by Philips, kind of leading into the overall long-term objective of having a marketplace, if you will, of different applications that customers can develop and share among the installed base. But that's in the future. But it is a good example of an application created using the software development kit. So I'm going to go ahead and launch into it. Peer learning was structured a little bit different, or the focus whenever Johns Hopkins created it. Their focus was really more on patient care and radiologist education, as opposed to just checking the box, I need to do this for, Joint Commission type of quality control review requirements. So they really wanted to focus on patient care and education. The reason I bring that up is many times with most peer review applications that are out in the marketplace, they are over-reading an exam maybe from last year. One radiologist, they'll be prompted to do a read, and it's from 6 months ago or 12 months ago, 2 years ago, et cetera. And so there is some, value to that as far as providing feedback. But in the case of this application, we're looking at studies that were performed in the last 24 hours, 48 hours. So a very short window is the way it's configured. With the goal of, if there's a miss or something that was found, a discrepancy or something that needed to be addressed, most likely the patient's still in the hospital, or they can bring them back quickly, so addressing the patient care aspect of it. But also, along with that, looking at the radiologist education. As a radiologist, I would probably remember what I was thinking when I dictated this study yesterday, but I probably would not have the same level of remembrance or detail from a study that I did last year. So it really helps with that education standpoint as well. The application, it can cover the randomly assigned cases. So typically within a normal workflow, most peer review applications, you randomly assign cases to a radiologist to do the overread for studies that are not something that they dictated. And so we can certainly do that. From an administration standpoint, you can set up how many should they do. So you've got the ability to control that. And so I would be presented as a radiologist, I would be presented with this list, and I can go through and select my study, see the report that was done for this study, the prior report. I could load the images. Whenever I would click this, it would launch a URL-based viewer. So again, if this was in situation where we're integrated in with View Packs, then it would launch the View Packs viewer, so they could see the images there. If it was not a View implementation, then we would launch the EMR viewer or some other type of URL-based viewer. So I'm presented with the prior report. I can see the images, make my decision. Do I agree with it? Concur? Was there a miss? And then also specifying the level of detail if I wanted to add in specific comments, as well as an adjudicator. So one of the differences in this application versus some other peer review type of applications is this also has an adjudication function, which means if I believe someone missed something on a report, I document it, I submit that review, the other radiologist sees it, and if they disagree, then they can bump that up to an adjudicator. So a third party, the department head or whoever's over that subspecialty, would be the one to look at it and make the decision. And I'll show you an example of that here in just a minute. But in terms of just the standard radiologist review process, they see the images, they see the report, they make the decision, submit it, and they're done. The other, or one of the differences, I should say, between this application, Peer Learning, and the peer review that's available in View is that we also have an ad hoc type of capability. So instead of just looking at exams that have been assigned to me to read, I can also launch peer learning during the course of my normal reading, if you will, in terms of going in and actually selecting a case, loading the images. If I was in the middle of reading a study and I was looking at a prior report, just as a comparison, looking at the prior chest x-ray as an example, if I noticed that there was something that I felt the radiologist had missed, then I could launch peer review manually in an ad hoc type basis and follow the same function. What was the level of miss? What was the adjudication? Add in comments, etc. And that's functionality that peer review within the View Packs application doesn't have. So again, it's more about positioning, determining what the customer would like to have, and then presenting the appropriate solution, if you will. So we've got both the assigned cases, you have the ad hoc peer review. This can also be used as a learning opportunity, same type of concept. If it was a scenario where I really thought this was mainly just not anything that was missed, but maybe the wording could have been a little bit different to be more precise, or some type of feedback I wanted to give to the other radiologist from an education standpoint, I could use this application to do that as well. Okay, I'm going to skip these next two real quick and jump down to the tough cases. So this is one of the other nice things about this application is I also have the ability, if I want a second opinion, I can request someone to, in advance, if you will, take a look at it, look at this study. So maybe I have my preliminary report here, but then I want someone else to actually review this, and so I could assign it to a specific radiologist and say, hey, can you give me a second opinion on this? Can you take a look? Am I missing something, etc.? And so you can do that as a different type, more of a workflow where you're actively seeking out someone's opinion and assistance with a difficult case. Okay. If I have assigned that to someone, then on the other side, it would show up as an additional number here. So it would increment, and it would actually show up as a second opinion. So someone else is looking for my response and feedback. So I could select that study, provide my feedback, etc., just like the normal workflow. In this area, cases for review, this is also where if I'm an adjudicator, then it would be presented to me, my work list, what studies do I need to review and make a decision as an adjudicator. Okay, so if I select that, and one thing I didn't mention right at the beginning, I logged on as the Philips sales account. And the reason I did that is so these would be populated with some information. So as you're doing your customer demos, instead of using your normal user ID and login, go ahead and use the generic Philips Sales login, so you'll have this information populated as opposed to it just being blank on your demo environment. So in this example, I'm logging in as Philips Sales. The person who provided the initial read is listed here. Then there's the person that did the initial review saying, I thought I saw something, is listed here. And then I would look at both of their comments, look at the report, and then I would make the decision. Do I agree with the reviewer, yes or no, add in comments, as well as entering a score if I decided. So the workflow in terms of how you do the review is pretty much the same each time, but there's different workflow scenarios based on whether I'm performing the initial review, I want to ask for someone's second opinion, or if it gets bumped up to me as an adjudicator. So different workflow scenarios there. The next one that I want to mention is the cases for conference. So this is another another way to prepare for conferences. So there's several different applications that we have within the overall portfolio that provide conference type functionality. We talked about Case Indexer. There's some others that allow the user to create a list of cases that they want to review during a conference. The same functionality exists in peer learning. The reason we put it in multiple ones, it's just a common workflow, and so it makes sense based on who the user is and just their workflow to have it in a few different places. But I can select the study, load images, et cetera, as needed. So just an easy way to create an index for conference or cases that I want to use for the conference. The last two items I want to mention are more on the reporting aspect of it. So this does, as with all of the applications within Philips, it's very focused on data, analytics, et cetera. So we have the ability, as long as my permissions grant me this right, I can go in and do a report, view what radiologists, how they're progressing, do they have any outstanding cases, how many have they read, et cetera. And I can create this list and filter it either by the physician as the reviewer or the physician as the person being reviewed. So if I wanted to look at a list of maybe physicians that were new to the group, maybe focus a little bit stronger in that area as far as tracking their progress, et cetera, I have the ability to do that as far as these lists based on the date range I want to view, as well as the subspecialty. And then on the detailed reporting, this is really just a way to create very detailed reports on the overall peer review or peer learning application. How are we doing based on different date ranges? Who did the report? Who was the reviewer? The original report, who was the one that was the reviewer? If I wanted to break it down by, clinically significant findings, et cetera. So just a quick, easy way to create very robust reports focused on how you're doing from an overall quality control standpoint for your radiologist reading environment. So I hope that provided a good overview of the peer learning application. As always, if you do have any additional questions, please reach out to your local Philips representative. Thank you.